Assalamualaikum and greetings to everybody. Welcome to the Truth Uncover podcast. My name is Muhammad Hafiz and I'm here today with my three outstanding friends. The names are Aqil, Adli and Dani. In this podcast, we will talk and discuss the issue of fake news and misinformation in the digital era. As we all know, fake news and misinformation could not be separated from. As a statistic shows, the rapid spread of fake news has been worsened by the huge growth of social media and internet platforms. Misinformation, on the other hand, also has grown in importance, affecting beliefs and having a huge influence on society. So, the question is, why do these dire matters happen and why must we stop them? Fortunately, we aim to provide a comprehensive exploration from A to Z for our loyal listener. Before we go further into our business, let's make it clear the main discussion for today's podcast. First of all, we will expose the techniques used to create and propagate fake news. Next, we will examine the impact of misinformation on our community. And last, we will talk about the urgent need for critical thinking and robust fact-checking despite of to cater all this fake news and misinformation. But first, let's hear from Adli, one of our knowledgeable hosts. Adli, what are your thoughts on the gravity of this issue and the technique used to create and propagate fake news?
Okay, thank you for the host. A big issue is fake news. It's when people purposely make up or share misleading information that looks like real news. It has the power to deceive, spread lies and change our worldview. Fake news can be produced in a variety of ways, including making things up, altering the truth, posing as someone else, employing attention-grabbing headline, and abusing social media. So this is my talk on the gravity of the issue and technique used to propagate the fake news, which is the first one is learning to recognize fake news, verify facts, and exercise critical thoughts is crucial. By doing this, we can combat fake news and ensure that the information we have is accurate. Okay, that's all from me. Back to the host.
Now that we have a clearer understanding of the mechanism behind the generation of fake news, let's hear from my friend Aqil. Aqil, do you have any additional insights to share?
Okay, thank you to Muhammad Hafiz. And now I will add about the impact of misinformation on communities that can be significant and far-reaching. Now I will tell some key impact of misinformation. The first one is effect on society and politics. First, false information has the power to sway public opinion and affect political debate. It also can undermine the democratic process by influencing election, influencing policy choice and manipulating public opinion. Okay, my second point is public health risk. Misinformation in the context of public health can have several consequences. False claim about the treatment, vaccine or contagious disease can discourage people from taking appropriate action, leading to increased health risk and preventive harm. Back to the host.
Thank you, Aqil, for your sharing. What about you, Dani? What is your thought about the urgent need for critical thinking and robust fact-checking despite of to cater all this fake news and misinformation?
Thank you to the host. The importance of critical thinking and fact-checking in combating fake news and misinformation cannot be overstated. They empower individuals to become active participants in the informative ecosystem rather than passive recipients of information. By honing these skills, we can protect ourselves from manipulation. Fake news and misinformation often aim to shape public opinion, promote particular agendas, or sow discord. Critical thinking allows us to question the motive behind the information we encounter and identify potential biases or ulterior motive. Fact-checking enables us to verify claims and avoid being misled by false or misleading information. Preserve the integrity of public discourse, and in a healthy democracy, public discourse should be grounded in facts and reasoned argument. Critical thinking and fact-checking act as guardian of truth, ensuring that accurate information and well-supported argument are given priority over falsehood and baseless claim. That's all from me.
Wow, my brilliant friends have provided us with a profound and insightful explanation. Now, let's proceed to our next agenda. Expert views on the issue of fake news and misinformation. Actually, we had the opportunity to interview a journalist to gain their perspective on this matter. Let's listen to their enlightening insight. Thanks to Mr. Fakulsi Shakirin because want to spend some time for me to interview. First of all, I would like to ask 5 questions regarding about fake news and misinformation, specifically in journalism. So my first question is, what are some common sources or origins of fake news and misinformation? And how do these sources spread false information?
Okay, thank you to Hafiz for this interview session, for inviting me. I'll try to answer it as the best I can based on my experience previously as a journalist for the state of Terengganu in the news platform called trdi.my. So the first question is the common sources of origins of fake news. Most of, as you see from the modern spectrum of today, most misinformation or fake news comes from social media, number one. It is the most number one source because rarely you see in television, in radio, that they popularize or they report misinformation. Official sources rarely or almost not always report fake news. So mostly in social media platforms, which you can see Facebook, Twitter, and WhatsApp. For example, in Malaysia's context, you see a lot of propaganda regarding political figures. They use many fake accounts to spread not very sensational headlines and news. Especially you see examples such as, Harakat Daily.
Yeah, Mr. Hafiz, I know Market Daily.
Harakat Daily or Astro Awatni. See, they hide behind like fake names and to disguise themselves as a original platform. Mostly they will make jokes about the news or, satira, as we would say. But little do we know they accidentally create fake news because once people share, especially in this day of age, the more we share, the more wide the spread of misinformation can occur. So I would say social media mainly from uncredible sources that are questionable and not from real individuals. And how do these sources spread false information? By viraling it, by sharing it, by posting in many groups and websites, especially in social media or messaging platforms such as WhatsApp. Thank you.
My next question is, do these journalists have to face challenge when covering story that involve fake news and misinformation? For example, something that might involve with Prime Minister. What if journalists have to report it, but some sources might be true and some sources might be false? So how do they navigate the delicate balance between reporting the truth and avoiding amplification of false information?
So I would say the challenges of reporting fake news is finding the right person to ask. If you ask a wrong person, then the fake misinformation will just increase. So for journalists involving fake news, especially when it's very sensational, for example, I take the most common one is MH370. At the beginning, there's a lot of news saying that the plane is in the Sea of India. The plane crashed at Sabah. So at that time, it's very important to analyze the information first and cross-check. Because at that time, there's a lot of information coming out. Everyone wants to say something about this issue, about where the plane is, about how did it crash. So it's very important to go through the all of information, especially when journalists often face pressure to, have to report very quickly. Journalists have very tight deadline. So we have to strike a delicate balance between reporting the truth, as at the same time reporting it very early on, or very right on time, I would say. So the way that we navigate this balance is keep keep, I would say, like macam ganggu, or keep kacau, or keep pestering the authorities for information, because they are the only ones that you can trust. And how to avoid amplify is you don't sensationalize your news, meaning that we know that we want to write a catchy headline to attract readers, but we have to remember the how to report it in a very I would say objective way, because in media it's hard to be objective, but I think journalists have a responsibility to expose or debunk false information, any way they can, to use their position, because journalists have a straight direct channel to many agencies, many government officials, many representatives. So they have a direct channel. So there's no excuse on reporting the truth alone. And how to avoid false information is to debunk it. Is an easy way to explain it. If people sensationalize about, I would say, like COVID cases in Malaysia, the number of rising COVID cases. So some people would like generate wrong numbers about COVID cases. So our role is to report the truth. And if there's misinformation happening, then report on that misinformation to solve it. And recognize that it's a misinformation. For instance, laporan yang dikeluarkan oleh sekian-sekian adalah tidak benar. So, yeah. Denying it is a good way to stop the amplification of false information.
For the last question for this interview session, as a journalist, are there any ethical consideration when it comes to reporting fake news and misinformation? How do they ensure their reporting doesn't inadvertently contribute to the spread of false information?
Like I said, journalists carry a big responsibility in reporting the truth. So a reporter should always know the consequences, and ensuring that no one is being hurt in the process of reporting the news. For example, if you report news about the crash of MH370, so it is very important for us to not focus in on controversies or assumptions without basis or solid proof, because you might hurt people in the process, because there are victims affected by this news. So it is our sole duty in reporting only what we know, and not creating questions or more controversies from our news. And it is also important for a journalist to be ethical in terms of transparency, meaning that if we report fake news, if we accidentally cause fake news, it is important for us to set the record straight, and disclose, okay, we from Bernama apologize from reporting this fake news, and we would be transparent with any errors made. Because most of the time it's not necessarily our fault, because news always comes from officials. We don't create things that did not happen. We don't rarely you see news agencies create something that does not happen. Usually it always comes straight from a representative or an official most of the time. So if they report on things that can be considered as misinformation, they can clarify it very quickly and be transparent to the public. And also, journalists have to be ethical, because they hold a very important position in the public, especially in reducing the number of fake news. If news spread about a new healthcare medicine that has gone viral, so it is important for us to consult an official, ask them about this news, whether it's true or not, and re-educating the public. So education is important. We're not only reporting, but we are educating the public. And also, the public should be educated in terms of where they get that information. So as a news outlet, we always mention our source. For instance, beliau kenyataan, the statement has been said by the police chief of Kuala Terengganu when he was interviewed, or in Malay you would say beliau berkata demikian ketika ditemu bual. So when you state the source, so people would know that, oh, this is an official source and this is a correct information and not just some fake news that people grab from out of nowhere, especially in WhatsApp groups. They would share images and links from very questionable blog posts. So our role is to be the truth spreader, not the misinformation spreader. So that's what I think the ethical considerations: to tell the truth from the correct source, and educate the public about where to find the correct information.
So, from all these 5 questions, what I can conclude is, as a journalist, it's not easy job, because we face a lot of fake news and misinformation. The sources from various places, but it depends on the journalist, he or she, to cater that sources and be ethical.
Usually, when you are a journalist, you are not alone, because we closely work together with many agencies, especially with Bernama or RTM. Journalists rather rarely face this problem alone. So we have a network of fact checkers and cross check. So it is rarely that we have to come to a big challenge of trying to solve this problem alone, because most of great reporters, they report this very early on, and they speak directly to the source. So we are in a situation where, although misinformation and fake news, you see in social media, they are like on the rise, they are rising. Even though they are joke posts or satire, but they can cause harm. So you can trust on the Malaysian agencies and media that at least they would report some truth to it, although not all, but some of it, and they would report on time. So that's the closing statement.
Thank you, Mr. Fabrici. I think that's all for now. I would like to say high gratitude for your cooperation and for your generous answers. Until then, have a nice day. Thank you.
All right, thank you for having me. I hope it answers your questions.
The experts have truly shed light on this complex issue, providing us with a crystal clear explanation. As we conclude this podcast, our biggest hope is that all of our listeners will gain something and start to make a difference. My advice is be a good public partisan in the digital media. This is all from us. Thank you for joining us today, and until then, goodbye and peace out. Remember, the truth matters. Assalamualaikum and bye-bye.